I'm going to give you my summation of health care and why I don't support the current plan. I don't support Obamacare. I don't support a single payer system. I don't support socialized medicine. What I want is this. This is what I want. These are the three principles. The care we need at a price we can afford from the doctor we choose. Period. That's it. And Obamacare doesn't do that. It was supposed to allow you to keep the it was supposed to allow you to keep the policy you had. That didn't happen. It was supposed to keep the doctor you had. That didn't happen. It's supposed to be able to save $2,500. That didn't happen. So that one didn't apply. But you can go through each one of them, including the current one that's being proposed, and you can say, no, it doesn't meet that requirement. And there are reasons, but I won't get into them, why, and some of the things I want to help. And yes, Medicare is a part of the Obama plan, and henceforth it would be a part of the repeal. Obamacare, the only in that plan, the only thing that was in there was the $700 billion taken out of the Medicare trust fund to pay for the subsidies that happened. And so I don't agree with that. I never have. I've spoken out against it for 6 years, that it was wrong to take that money. But it does take money. If you're going to have a subsidized plan, whether it's called what it's called in the new plan, and that is tax credits. It's called the old plan a subsidy. It's called in a couple of the other plans high risk pool. Well, whatever you call it, it takes between $50 and $70 billion a year. So 10 years, that's the money that was borrowed, the $700 billion. It takes that to fund that pool of people. That's what it takes. So you can spread it out over everybody. You can have a high-risk pool where it's just a certain number of people. You can have credits for poor people. Whatever it is, it costs that money. And so that's going to cause rates for everybody to go up. That's the way it is. So in the end, if it's not a rate that's a tax, it's going to be a rate there. As far as the cap, there's no cap on Medicare. It's paid for. If somebody makes $1 billion in salary, they're still going to pay it. There's no cap there. Somebody's talking about a cap on that. There is a cap on Social Security. There's a cap on Social Security, and I've proposed removing that cap. There is the actuaries, but the actuaries say, because what you get is what you made, and so there is a diminishing return on doing that. Now, we're working with the Social Security Administration on seeing how we could fix that, but just doing that one thing would actually cost money in the end. And there's a whole reason behind that. I won't get into that, but there is a way to do it. We're working on it. As far as spending, I'm not cutting. I'm not just taking away EPA. I like EPA. Here's my environmental record. Last year, I was talking about Florida, somebody saying, I know just as much as anybody about Florida's natural environment and all the things that are happening with the surface water and how close it is, our water and how close it is to the surface and so forth. So I was the champion of the Everglades by the Audubon Society last year. There's only one of those given out, and I won it. I'm a Republican. I've been twice awarded the Friend of Nature's Conservancy, and I'm friends with all of them. I work with them. I'm on the water committee, do the water bill. I had a lot to do with actually having environmental projects and eco projects a part of the last water bill we did, and actually was able to get a chief's report on the Central Everglades Plan, which is what's going to fix the algae bloom on the east and west coast because there's too much water. Compliments of the Army Corps of Engineers about 60 years ago, straightening out the Kissimmee River. But anyway, it happened. It did happen. So we're trying to fix that. We have to fix the dikes on Lake Okeechobee, the Hoover dikes, and then we have to have more retention. And then we have to be able to raise the water level up. When we do that, it'll slow down or stop the need to run the water to the east or to the west, which causes the excess water, causes the algae bloom and all kinds of other problems. I work on Manatee counties, citrus counties in my district, Manatee are in my district now too. I have lots of Manatee. Most come to Kings Bay over in Citrus County, and I'm working on that to make sure that we finish that project, which is, I've talked to Army Corps, and I've also talked to Fish and Wildlife Service and so forth. We're working out a way where we can finish unplugging all the springs, getting the muck off the bottom, planting grass, so that it becomes the home of the manatee in a great way. So anyway, that's that. But I want to talk to you about also just people say, don't cut this, don't cut this, don't cut this, don't cut this, don't cut this. Let me tell you what's happening, what's going to happen. Every single budget, including the one actually Donald Trump is proposing, in 10 years, every budget that we do is 10 years long. It's all constrained with that amount of money. He's within those constraints, which were bipartisan constraints. Nancy Pelosi voted for him, so did Paul Ryan, so did Patty Murray, who was chairman of that committee before, and others in the budget committee over in the Senate. They all supported a 10-year amount of money that we would spend. Now, where we spend it is what's being argued, okay? So that's the deal, but still, all spends the same amount. Here's what happens when we do that. If we don't do anything else, we just keep funding things the way they go. In 10 years, the interest that we'll pay in 10 years is going to be $750 billion. That's what we'll be paying. Not one dime of it will be spent down. We'll not have paid off any of it. That's what it's going to be. I'm just giving you facts. That's more than the defense budget, both now and then. It's more than Medicare. It's more than Medicaid. It's more than all kinds of individual programs set aside by themselves. Now, you know what we're going to have to do then? Here's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to borrow the money to pay the interest, the $750 billion. So I know we've talked about all these problems and we need to spend more here, but there. Just know there is a payday coming. And when it comes, nobody's talking, not one person asked about that. Now there is not been one person in every town hall meeting I've done or listening session I've done that has asked anything about that. What are we going to do when we have to borrow all the money, $750 billion, to pay an interest payment of $750 billion? What are we going to do? So just know, I did. I'm the only one in Congress that did. Somebody said, did you cut your salary? Absolutely. If we rolled back to 2008, all the programs, then we would balance the budget today. That's all I have to do. So I go over to the Bureau of Public Debt every year, and I hand them a check. I try to get them to take it out of my check. They can't do it because there's a constitutional provision that says every member of Congress has to make the same amount of money. So I took a check over there, and I handed it to them. And it goes back, I rolled my salary back in 2008. The lady, the first time I went, which is 6 years ago, she whispered to me, there's only 11 people in that bureau that borrows all the money. They have auctions every 2 weeks. She goes, don't tell anybody. Why not? I whispered back, why not? She goes, we're not set up to have a bunch of members of Congress come over and pay down the debt. I tell you, I said, I'm going to say it, I'm going to tell them, but I promise you're not going to have a problem. They're not coming. Sure enough, they didn't. So now they like me. They send me a thank you note every year saying thank you for helping pay down the debt with your son. Anyway, that's not going to be enough. But if everybody did, it'd be a lot. And I can tell you other things I've done to turn back money back to even before 2008. But that's that. What I can tell you is this too. Look, I have a voting card. I challenged, which is not a smart thing to do if you're just trying to get ahead, I challenged John Boehner on the floor of the House as far as who was going to be Speaker of the House. I got more votes than anybody has ever done challenging the Speaker right in the middle of everybody, where people have to stand up out of their seat and yell someone else's name other than John Boehner. And people did it. And 10 months later, he quit. The majority leader decided he wanted to be Speaker, and it was all planned out, and I was able to stop him. I did not support Paul Ryan. I ran against him too, but I didn't win. because of this. Some people said, well, you vote just like them, just like them, just like them. No one owns this card except me. This is my voting card. It's like a credit card. Has my name on it, has my picture on it. Not bad. Look older. I mean, I'm getting older. But anyway, have this card. I stick it in behind the seats. There are little card readers, but some of them, and a light comes on, and then I press a button. Red, no. Green, yes. I do everything I can to make the best decision I can. I'm fallible just like everybody else. I make mistakes just like everybody else, but I'm gonna at least consider everything that's there. I'm gonna read it, understand it, and try to vote the right way that I can that will benefit our people. This is good till January 3rd, 2019. And then if I haven't re-earned it, I can go home, which I'd be happy to do. I got 14 grandkids, and I'm happy. They're great. They're awesome. It's the greatest invention ever. So I can go home and play with them. But if I get reelected, then I'll get another card, and I can use it again. But while I have this card, the Speaker of the House, the Republicans, a lobbyist, somebody else, no one owns this card. No one. So I've made votes. But it haven't been votes because somebody told me to vote away. I voted the way I thought we should. That's it. And then you can count on that. You also can count on the fact that I don't have to have 100% perfect bill. I believe I got elected by 50% plus one. If I'm 50% plus one for something, I'm going to vote for it. If I'm not, I'm voting against it. There's another button there. You can count on this too. It's a yellow button. I call it the chicken button. That means you don't vote. You just, I'm present. I don't use that button. I was sent there by you and the other citizens in this district, 750,000 citizens, and to vote, one way or another, but not to play chicken. So that's a picture of what I do and how I vote, and what's going to happen. I can give you some other issues. I can tell you about, tax relief and other things that are going to happen, hopefully, that will stop the automatic tariff on businesses who live or who are in this country. They have to pay a 35% tariff because they're the highest rates in the world. But it's not really a tariff, it's just the income tax they have to pay. That's why they're leaving. And so we have a plan. We're going to work. We're trying to get them to bring their money back, which is going to pay for our infrastructure, the problems we have there, fixing the bridges and roads and fixing some of the environmental issues and other things. And when they bring it back, it's going to be a windfall of money. We're going to use it to build roads and transportation issues and infrastructure issues. There probably a wall included. Can't be president. Just like everybody said. Now wait, didn't you say how are we going to get along? When you do that, don't you have to give up something yourself? Don't you? So you get $1 trillion worth of infrastructure, and a little bit of it goes to a wall. So I can see this is why. Here's the picture of why Congress can't get along. Because everybody has to have their way, and it can't be that way. So what do? Somebody said, what are you going to do about it? Here's what I do about it. I have a dinner. It's about 3 times a year. My co-sponsor, co-host, is Debbie Wasserman-Schultz. She's a friend, but we don't agree with anything, but we're friends. The ticket to get into that dinner is bringing someone from the other side. Because I figure if we can't talk, we'll never get along. We'll never be able to decide anything. So at least let's talk. It may not work, but it certainly won't work if we don't do it. So we get together and we talk about issues, and it's loud sometimes. But at least we got in a room, we ate a meal together. Somebody I asked to come, the Republican, he goes, I don't want to be in the same room with her. I go, well, they don't want to be in the same room with you either. But, so just come. And he came, he said it was the best dinner he'd ever been to. Because at least he found out there were real people on both sides of the aisle. And then I'm part of a bipartisan group where here's one of the things we're working on. We're working on the problems in the inner cities. A friend of mine, Antoine Bolin, he's a football player for the Detroit Lions, wide receiver. He used to be with the FSU. He was All-American there. And he came to see me, and he brought a bunch of the NFL players during the season. I don't know how they got off. I didn't know they could take a day off, but they came here just a few months ago. And he said, I don't want to be like Kaepernick. I who kind of makes a statement, because I don't disagree with that, but I want to be a solution. So this bipartisan group, I got together, we met with them, and first I met with him, and there's a bunch of other, he brought a bunch of other members of the NFL together, and we met with them, and in the end, we said we could do something. They want to use their star power to hopefully work out community versus first responders. How can we get them together? How can we have people together? So that's the whole thing. So we had this bipartisan group, just met with them a couple weeks ago, and we came up with some ideas. We're going to do that. So there's a few things I'm doing to hopefully get people together. But we'll not get together as long as we're strident. And, you know, there's some rough speeches that go on the floor of the House of Representatives. Nasty, mean, vile speeches that happen. And I'm not a part of that. I don't do that. I've never said one bad word against any member of the United States Congress. I have just said we should get along. So, here it is. I thank you all for coming. It's great to see you. I gotta go. Donald Trump's Donald Trump. He's our President of the United States. We should respect that. And if there's things wrong, don't get it.
HR 610, red or green, right now.
Congressman Webster was in town today for what he called a listening session. Webster and other members are back in their districts for the April recess. When he and other members return to D.C. next week, they'll need to pass a spending plan and deal with the debt ceiling. Today, he singled out the $19 trillion national debt, saying the current situation needs to be fixed.
It is a pending catastrophe, and they can talk about increasing spending all they want, but if we don't make some cuts, they're going to be made for us.
As you can see, things were calm today. Webster also discussed a new push to overhaul health care, saying he has spoken to House leadership and the president about reviving the failed GOP plan to repeal and